Well, thank you guys. So, for sake of the podcast, so first of all, it's called the Minnesota Music Note. So, my intention of creating the Minnesota Music Note in the first place was really just to kind of explore the music industry that is Minnesota. So, I'm relatively new. My wife and I have been musicians for many years. We've been living in Minnesota for 10 years now. So, and we're really just still, I guess, kind of reaching out and getting to know people and just really getting the shape of things. And I really like hearing people's stories. And so I kind of put this together as a way to talk to my friends. Mm-hmm. And then as I meet different people that are doing different stuff like you guys, I'm like, hey, come, why don't you come join and let's see what's going on. So really what I'd like to start with is why don't each of you introduce yourself, full name, first name, last name, maybe spell out the last name for me so we can put that in lower thirds if we need to. So Karl, why don't you start?
My name is Karl Xavier III, Karl with a K, last name with an X, spelled Xavier.
I'm glad you spelled that out for us.
There you go.
Chris Loth, Loth.
Nice. Cool. So
Chris, I should say, for the first name.
That part I got. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to make you both with a K.
Yeah.
Just for, yeah. So what do you guys do? Who are you? What do you do?
You go first, Karl.
All right.
You've been doing it longer than I have.
I'm the events manager at Bogart's Entertainment Center, and I actually have been there 31 years. And so I've seen a lot of changes in the music formats, promotions, marketing, etc. But I'm the person that, along with the team and ownership management, we book the bands, the dueling pianos, private events like wedding receptions, corporate events. And also we have acoustic shows in our back alley tavern and outdoors in the summer. And I also book those, whether they're solo, duo, or trio.
Nice. So I think every musician in Minnesota wants to get to know who you are.
And everybody wants to play the rooms too. Yes,
sure.
Absolutely.
A lot of time Karl spends is telling people, we got you on the list when we got a spot, or which is, I guess, is a good spot to be in versus having to look. Yeah.
How far out are you kind of booked out?
Well, right now, we started what we call our fall, winter, spring season. We started with live entertainment mid-September. We'll go to mid-May. And except for a few Fridays or Saturdays, we're booked right now through most of January. And we have spots booked in February, March, April, and May.
Wow. That's a master plan.
And really have to do it because a lot of the bands at the level that they're at, for us to get them in the room, we need to book them in advance. And it's a two-way street on that. The agents and the bands know, hey, this is an excellent room to play. They don't want to miss playing it. We don't want to miss what we feel are the top bands for our room. Right. There's always room for a new band that's maybe already established that we haven't had, or somebody that we know will do well that's new, that may not be as popular, but in our market might work well. But yeah, you have to book in advance, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow, so that's I don't think about next year yet. So awesome. Well, over to you.
So we're one of the new owners that took over in 2018, end of 2018, sometime around that time. Main role is focused around marketing, but also just help the overall business run, and I guess that's it in a nutshell. I personally am new to music. In 2018, we kind of inherited the music side when we got involved. We're a bowling family, so the bowling center is what brought us into Bogart's, and I think we're all very comfortable with the music stuff now. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I got to know you through text messages.
Sure.
Like, you are the text guy. You're the guy that.
That's like a double-edged sword. Coming out of COVID, through COVID, they kind of implemented table reservations, and that wasn't something that we had previously done. And then we found that could be a revenue stream for us. So we started doing. I just would do them like you reserved a table with me. My contact is on the page. And after a couple of years, I'm sitting here saying, like, I spent a lot of time making table reservations. So now we're working on a new website that's going to integrate the ticket purchase and the table reservation to help just automate that part of it. But I will miss the opportunity to text and call with our guests, but they know how to get a hold of me if they need to. So
yeah, I mean, you're well known already. I think Kevin Sundberg was the guy who.
Oh yeah.
who
Kevin is the one that has the flannel band that I was talking to you about.
yes.
So
Yeah, shredding
flannel, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
They're good fun.
There's also another band called Flannel. So there's
that
flannel
right?
and there's shredding flannel. So
Uh-huh.
two different flannels out there.
Maybe that's a co-show that's
I don't
in the
know.
making right there, right?
Only if they get along.
Right. If they get along and maybe
Yeah.
similar enough genres,
Just like we did with the Iron Maiden,
the two
the
Maiden
Made
shows.
Minneapolis
Yes.
and 2
Yeah.
Minutes
Yeah.
to Maiden. That was fun.
That was a fun show and quite epic. Quite a going into it, I think maybe the bands didn't know what to expect. The audience didn't know what to expect.
Well, it's the first time that they had played together.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the first time we're really having two bands do the same tribute to the same band.
Yeah.
And obviously they worked together really well on making sure that they had separate
No
songs for
repeats,
each
yep.
set. And they were all fired up about how well it went. And
Yeah.
kind of a unique thing because normally if you did two tribute bands, you do one that's doing a tribute to a particular band, and then the other one as a co-bill or a headliner does a tribute to another band. But this was the same.
Yeah.
So very unique.
Fantastic. I don't think there's too many tributes. There's not too many overlap tributes in the Twin Cities now that I know of. I think there might be a couple out there, but I think there was a couple of Foo Fighters bands at one point in time, but I think one of those fell apart, so now we're down to one. But yeah, I don't know. You probably have a better feel for what's out there than I do, even so.
Some of them come and go, and some of them are really established. So that's the big thing too, is knowing, what their Facebook following is and where they've played. If they've only played on the north side of the cities, or a lot of casinos, but not in clubs and event centers. So there's a lot of calculations to make it all work and still be human about it. But it's all about talent and numbers for sure.
Yeah, break that down for me. I know our audience is listening right now going, how do we get into Bogarts? What's the thought process? How do you kind of go through figuring out who is the right fit?
Well, if you're a new band, even with experienced musicians, new band, new name, whatever your format is, there's nothing wrong with starting in the smaller circuit, which is a lot of smaller clubs, a lot of, actually, even the, I would say small to medium-sized clubs, and playing out of town and working your way back to the cities. And also the VFWs and American Legions, a lot of them have bigger back rooms in their buildings. And we have some bands that still play those because that's where they started, and they have a great following there. And it's a great way to build up your repertoire. It's better to go out and play than rehearse. Rehearsal's important, but the more you play on stage, the better you become and the quicker you become better. And it is a waiting game. I mean, you have to have the right promotional material. In the old days, people used to mail out a manila envelope with 8x10 pictures and an audio cassette or a 45 record or a VHS tape for their video demo. And now, of course, it's all online, and it's YouTube, EPK, and so you're looking at people a different way. It's hard to go out and see every band live.
Sure.
And of course, a lot of new bands, we'd pack your room. Well, we don't know that, and it's not to be disrespectful, but we can't take a chance that you might only draw 25 or 50 people, and we seat 275, 280, and we standing room only, we hold 500 plus. So we got to make sure that we're not taking chances that are detrimental, and we're good about taking our chances. I think we all lend a lot of different things to the table, and that makes us make the decisions we make.
How many nights a week are you doing music?
Normally 2, but we have a Wednesday, a couple of nights each month. We call it the residency, and right now we have a band called Rival 5.
Yeah,
and
those guys are great.
And there's an example of their agent manager took them, and we happened to connect with him at the same time that he was developing them. We have a relationship already with them, and it all came together like, hey, let's do this residency thing. It's done out in Vegas and other places, and they have advanced themselves so quickly. And they plan to do something like 35 shows in a year. They did 70 over the last year.
Wow.
And a lot of it is because when they played with us, their manager could see them play, critique them. They'd come back the next time and try different songs, different things, and they advance themselves talent-wise to where they're not only opening for major acts like a Hairball or somebody like that, they themselves have become headliners. So they've advanced rather quickly.
Yeah, and I think I saw, if I'm not mistaken, they had good 200 people in on a Wednesday night.
Yes, we did.
We just
Yeah,
we just had them in
did.
for on November 5th, and they had 200. So
Yeah,
that's a good Wednesday.
what bar or venue in town wouldn't love that on a Wednesday?
Yeah,
Thursday?
I mean, it's been a building game. But we're in it for the long haul. The whole idea, the residency. I just want to take a step back, and it kind of shows you the value of owner operators getting out to other venues and seeing what other people are doing. We had hired a new director of operations a couple years ago, and he's from Wisconsin. He's been in Minnesota, left, came back, and he spent a lot of time down at Bunkers. And they got the longest running house band, I think, in the country. I don't know. They've been there for
sure in the
40 years
state.
or something.
Yeah.
Dr. Mamba's Combo.
Yes.
And so Josh thought it'd be cool just for him and his wife and myself and my wife to go down on a Sunday night and listen to the music. So we did, and they had, I don't know, a couple hundred people in there, and we left there, and we meet every Monday as a team, leadership, management, ownership, and I said, what can we do on a off night, right? Currently only have music Friday, Saturdays. What can we do to fill in another night? And we were thinking, could we do a residency? I mean, they got such a different vibe there, downtown Minneapolis, all the history. We have a lot of history, but it's just a different dynamic there. And then we were like, okay, which bands could we afford to pay to come in, right? And we're not charging to come in and see the residency at this point. It's a free show, so we got to figure out how to make enough money back on food and beverage to cover the band at least, and then hopefully have a little bit left over at the end of the show. And we kicked around a few names, and the residents, Rival 5 was kind of up there at the top, and we reached out, and they thought it was a great idea. And I just heard back from Mike that we're going to continue it on through January. Actually, we'll take January off, and then February through April.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And it's a prime example of how someone can break into a room. They were already known, but not well known. Established musicians, but that cohesiveness again of performing compared to rehearsing, and they've rocketed forward. It's fantastic. So the big thing will be, what do we do the next time?
Oh, that would be a good problem to have. They're hoping, I mean, they and we are hoping to get it up to 300 on a Wednesday night on a regular basis.
Sure.
I mean, the room can take 500, so that would be kind of cool, but at some point, we hope they outgrow the residency. That means things are going well for them, and they've done a lot for us. It's kind of a win-win. I was talking with Haley with the band on Wednesday, and making sure that they feel like they're getting a lot of exposure, and people are, it's helping them build their audience when they go around on Friday, Saturday nights, and I think it's going well.
Definitely.
Well, good start, right? And then obviously, if they move on and grow big, then you've got a format now. Get in and try somebody new and see what happens. So, really cool. So you guys sent me this report, which I thought was quite interesting, and this is a state, so the state of live.
Yeah.
So we'll show it to the camera. We'll also kind of bring it up as a graphic so we can kind of see it in bigger detail. But I read through it a little bit, and I kind of wanted to start with just this first paragraph, just to kind of frame up what we're going to talk about. So this is the executive summary, and unfortunately I printed this as really small, so we're going to see if my eyes work well enough to be able to read this. Executive summary of findings. In the United States, independent live venues, promoters, and festivals are cultural cornerstones and economic powerhouses, but 64% operated without profitability in 2024. That's pretty
Concerning.
epic opening statement, right? Yeah. Their survival is threatened by inflation, monopolistic pressures, and predatory ticket resale practices. Yet their economic footprint is vast, their community impact is undeniable, and their importance to the national economy is backed by hard data. So I'll stop there without getting too much deeper in, but I appreciate you sending this over to me, Chris, and it's a great, kind of catalyst for us to have a conversation. What is it like running a venue? I mean, obviously your venue's an entertainment center. You have more sources of bringing
Sure.
people in and
Yeah.
keeping them entertained. But I would imagine the music piece is probably a big enough piece that you have a good feel for, what's going on out there. And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, thankfully we have those other revenue buckets so that when the indoor entertainment slows down in the summertime, we have other things that we can rely on to get us through until music season kicks back up in September. I mean, it's a grind, but I don't know what small business isn't going to be a grind, but it seems like the music industry itself it's a tough business, both for the bands and the venues to make money. I think to go back to like a bigger picture, Bogart's is really trying I guess our mission is unreasonable hospitality, right? And that goes not only with the guests, but also we want to build these relationships with the bands. We want the bands that want to work with us, co-promote, co-market. There's a lot of bands that have a lot of talent, but they unfortunately don't spend enough time with their socials, with their website, making the videos, making the content to get themselves out there. And we'll take a run on a band that may not be as high quality, but they might have a really, really huge audience on Facebook or in socials that do a really good job. So we're looking for that partnership, kind of like we have with Rival 5, to kind of make it, that's our advantage, I guess, if we can build those relationships versus it being like, oh, we'll come play your room, we'll come and get paid and off to the next. It's like, we want something larger picture, I guess.
Absolutely.
When we're looking at who we're bringing in, but yeah, it's a tough grind. There's a lot of issues with the big players. You got Ticketmaster, Live Nation, AEG. And all of, there's speculative tickets. We don't necessarily see a huge impact on our room because we don't have like people scalping our tickets.
Right.
But it's the people that come to our room are also the same people that are going to these rooms that are run by those monopolies. And, there's speculative tickets that people are buying and then they're finding out that they don't exist. And then they feel shorted on the deal, which then associates us, right, with that transaction. So there's a lot of things that NEVA, the national chapter, and then also Minnesota is doing around ticket legislation and, practices that are predatory, I guess, towards the consumer that it just makes it what already is a tough business to be in even more difficult. So.
I believe Minnesota was one of the states that forced companies like Ticketmaster to be all in with their pricing, right? To kind of be very transparent and put it all out on the table.
Yeah, so
as opposed to kind of all these hidden fees that suddenly pop up when you go to the checkout cart.
Yeah, that's that was enacted in 2024. So the beginning of 2024 went all in pricing, which is helpful, right? But there was also I don't know how real it is, but I'm sure that before all-in ticket pricing existed, you would see the ticket price would be $50, but you're in your mind thinking like, okay, it's probably going to end up being $100. Well, then all of a sudden one day people went to see their tickets and now they're seeing $100. So they're associating like they don't know the all-in ticket price thing went into effect. So now they're seeing $100 and they think by the time they're going to check out, it's going to be $150.
Yeah.
So the Minnesota chapter actually did some education PR around that, letting people know that this is what you're seeing now. The ticket price that you see when you initially see it advertised is what you're going to pay at the end. So there's a what is a good practice does have consequences just with what people are expecting when they go and buy tickets. But I mean, we include our tax and processing. It's a couple bucks, $2-3 on a ticket, but that was legislation that went through in Minnesota, and now the association is working on. Part of the problem with that is there's not enough teeth for people that to take venues that aren't following those policies. What's the consequence, right? So. That's kind of the second piece that the association is working on a state level. But
I was just going to say, and going back to about the social media and the ticket pricing being as clear as possible, what's really changed is, an agent or a management company that's handling different bands, there's a lot more pressure on the agencies to work with their bands to make sure that somebody in the band or hired by the band or by the agency is doing the social media work, because it is important. And it's been a while, but I one time had a band go, yeah, we don't do any of that. And I'm going, how can you say that in today's post-COVID modern day world? Everybody's got to work on all these different angles to make the synergy come together. We do it with our marketing at our property. As a band, you should do it. And your agent manager shouldn't just be taking your commission that you're paying. They should be actually supporting you and helping you become a better band with all the media that's out there, not just your performance on stage.
Karl, what we should have done is we should have set this up with like a phone in and broadcast this live so all the musicians in town could call you and be like, hey, well, how do I do that? What am I supposed to do at this stage? So, yeah, great information. Yeah. So as a venue, do you really have conversations? So we're talking about, the state and the different things that are going on. Do you have a lot of communications with what's going on with the other venues? Do you talk to anybody and kind of see what the shape of if you do, I want to hear about that.
Well, so we're a bowling family. There's a Bowling Proprietors Association. So it's a group of individuals who own and operate bowling centers, right? And we have been involved in that national and Minnesota organization forever. So we got into Bogart's, started getting the feel of live music, live entertainment. And I'm starting to think there's got to be some organization that is kind of similar, right, for entertainment. So I did a little bit of research, found a couple, but we settled on NEVA. And it's probably been 3 years since we've been involved with that organization, the Minnesota chapter. You join the national chapter. Minnesota has a very, very active state chapter. You don't have to pay to be part of the Minnesota chapter. Your dues for the national get you into the Minnesota chapter. Started going to meetings, went to my first national convention that was in Milwaukee. Actually, the 2026 national convention is going to be in Minneapolis, which will be kind of cool. So everyone around the country is going to come down and see all the venues down in Minneapolis and hang out for a few days. But I would say through the involvement in the Minnesota chapter, we do get to connect with other owners, operators, and see how things are going, see what struggles they have, make sure that everyone, from my standpoint, networking is just critical in any business that you're in.
Of course.
Having conversations with other people, finding out what they're doing, looking at what other people are doing. How can we do better? How can, I'm sure people can gain things themselves by getting involved in those associations versus just kind of being involved in their own venue.
Well, when you look at information, there's kind of that musicians underground. Bands share conversations, information, who's joining a band, who's leaving a band, what band's breaking up, and what clubs are hot, what clubs are not, or, how they're treated. So sometimes just being a fly on the wall when a band is setting up or tearing down, I'll hear things. It's all confidential. You don't go running around sharing it to everybody, but you learn a lot of things. You learn who might be having maybe a inter band squabble over their format, songs they want to play, etc. Or they might be talking about other venues, the great places they played in state, in the Twin Cities, out of the states. So there is that type of informal underground. And of course, a lot of people are, and we all should be afraid, you don't want to share information that's detrimental to your own property for entertainment. So there's some things, you can't share with an agency or a band or even a customer. Customers all the time, they go, hey, how much that band costing you? And they say, well, I can't really share that. And they go, oh, sure you can. No, I really can't. There are things that are confidential.
Well, I guess that's the right move.
So I think something that we've seen, I'm hoping that this is a short-term thing, but our music season this fall, so since the beginning of September through now, has been a little bit light, okay? So, and we're not sure exactly what's going on because we haven't changed anything that we're doing, from a marketing or PR or customer experience standpoint. In fact, we continue to make changes and improvements to our room. But you start to wonder if are we doing, what's going on? And it's always nice to have those connections with other bands that play in a lot of different rooms, or you can just pick up the phone and say, hey, we're seeing late attendance. Friday nights are difficult in Minnesota with football going on from those first couple of months. and it's nice to hear that. It's not nice to hear, but it's something that people that go around and see other bands and other venues are seeing also lighter crowds. We're not really sure what's going on. I don't know if it's an economic situation going on, but weather has been somewhat moderate until last couple of days when we've actually hit some freezing temperatures.
Yeah.
But it's a grind. It just makes it that much more of a grind when you start to see attendance. And I don't know if, like I said, I'm not sure what is going on, but there is something going on. When you got the big hitters coming into your room that usually, bring in 400 people or bring in 150, 200, you gotta, what's going on.
So what's the sentiment? You said you're out there talking a little bit to bands, a little bit to venues, and like what's the feel?
Yeah, they're seeing the same
throw
thing.
Some bullet points up
Yeah,
there. What do they think it is? Even if
I didn't talk
not
to them.
Put you on the spot.
Well, a lot of it's it's so easy to talk about the weather in Minnesota. Last weekend it was deer hunting season, right? So you always got that dynamic. How many people? You got the cabins getting closed down in the fall. It's easy to take a look at numbers being down and try to back into to have a bias to think what's going on, right? We had a light turn on Friday night. Oh, it must have been because it was deer hunting, for example. But it's hard to tell exactly what's going on. But those are just dynamics that you have to consider when you're booking your room. Is it you want to stay away from, without being stereotypical, deer hunters are going to be follow this type of music. Maybe you don't want to put them in on deer opening weekend, but yeah, there's a lot of strategy that goes into.
There's no exact science to it.
I was just going to say that.
Just when you hit a couple of big home runs and somebody throws you the curveball and you walk away going, what happened there? And and even some of the heavy hitters, they'll say, well, some of them say, well, I used to worry so much about September, October. And then I realized, until you get into November, December, you can't worry about it. And yet they see the numbers being less too.
Yeah.
But you can't panic, but like Chris said, you got to evaluate. You got to keep an eye on it all. Absolutely.
So take me back, Karl. When you walked into the room, you said you've been into this for 30 years. And why? What brought you into music?
Well, I've been at Bogart's Entertainment Center for 31 years, but what happened to me is I went to college for mass communications, radio, TV, film, advertising, journalism, but I was really into radio broadcasting. And coming out of college, I had a job in public TV, full-time as a TV control room director, but part-time at an AM/FM station in Moorhead, Minnesota. The FM, that's when they were small and you were literally in a closet with automation and you got to do a few voiceovers. Ooh, big excitement. But the program director of the AM station was a nightclub DJ. And I said, hey, how do I come out and see you? And he said, come on out, pull music for me. I got the bug in 1979, and I think that really was the final bug. My senior year in high school, I was in band and in sports, but because I'd transferred home from one school to another, I was ineligible for sports, but not for music. And so my band director took me aside and said, hey, look, you got a talent for music. Why don't you direct the stage band? I want to be home with my wife and kids on the weekends. You do that, and let's see how. I got the music bug. I went, well, this is my future.
And you were still in high school at this point?
I was still in high school.
And the high school director's like, you take over, kid. I'm going to go home.
And I'm thinking, okay. And
wow.
But it jumped me right into college, and it got me into the broadcast, and music's always been my favorite. Wow. But when I got the nightclub bug, that was the final one. Live music was for me. Whether you're DJing, whether you're doing pianos, whether you're a solo, duo, trio, or a major band, 4, 5, 10, 12-piece, and that's the history. And it's ever changing, but that's why we're in this business, is it doesn't stay the same. And just when you think you might have something locked in, you realize there's something else that might even be more fun, more exciting, a new trend in music, or an old trend comes back and becomes popular again. And we see that through the years. And I always thought, not good enough to be in a band, be a leader of a band, but I know how to coordinate music and how to work with the musicians in the business. And my first real gig was with the Ramada Corporation, of all people, which you would think would be, cold and heartless. This is a business. And I got hired by people who understood the combination of the business and the human side of the music business. And So I've always been in that position of let's make sure that we work with all these musicians, treat them right. They'll do a great show for you. And that's what we do at Bogart's. I mean, we are more than fair and balanced with the bands that come in.
That's good to hear, honestly, because just you feel the vibe.
Absolutely.
You don't get that. I'm a drummer, and you don't get that at every venue.
No, you
don't
don't.
feel the love when every room that you walk into. Sometimes you feel like a number.
Yes, and we have musicians who will tell me that and tell us that God, you guys, you take care of us. We walk in, everybody knows what to do. Everybody knows where the power box is. They know what the food and beverage is. They know what time we start, who gets the check. And I went, well, it started at an early time for me in my career that if you do all those things, it makes the big show on stage really exciting because you've taken care of all of the BS and S behind the scenes, and you get to the real thing, which is the live entertainment.
Nice. So do you think cassette tapes are coming back?
That was the worst. That's the worst idea. It was better to have gone from vinyl to CD audio than to have the cassettes. And yes, and there was one point where when I was working for another company, we were buying vinyl for like 6-7 nightclubs, and then we were doing the CD switch at the same time. So you had to figure out which ones you'd buy on CD, which ones would be vinyl, and you'd phase into one and phase out of the other. The technology is exciting. I mean, if you're an old school person, you like to still handle a vinyl and mix. That's still popular. It's really come back. But the digital applications, some of the work that we all had to do was a lot of long hours, a lot of research in a whole different way. Now it's exciting to do the research. And it's all right there for you. You can find it somehow.
Yeah.
Chris would be the prime example. That marketing department and what these guys do for the research, I'm along for the ride on that.
Nice.
Well, you know how challenging marketing can be, right? And things are constantly changing. Trends are changing.
Yep.
Platforms are changing. There's new platforms coming out. It's like, how do you stay at the cutting edge of what we're doing? And thankfully, we've dedicated, myself, and we just hired a new marketing director. But I think it's very important that venues have dedicated staff for marketing, right? It's easy for owners and operators to get lost in the day-to-day stuff, and they start to kind of fall to the wayside about how important marketing is. If you don't have that dedicated team or an agency taking care of you, then you're really going to suffer in these. I mean, I'm a very competitive person. I have an engineering and sales background before I got into the family business. And when I was in sales, it was like more of a consulting sales where you'd make the sale and then you'd support that customer through forever, hopefully, until they find someone else to give their money to. But it was a relationship type thing. And when you kind of take a look at what sales is now, you have to rely on those relationship skills. And whether it's, like I said, whether it's the guest experience or we want to make sure that the bands are taken care of too. We want them to have Bogart's be the favorite room that they can play in. I think it's going to give us the best product for sure.
Well, I think so. Yeah. Easier to rebook those bands too, because it's easier to work out the next deal, even if it's the same. But, because a lot of bands sometimes think, well, this is a one-off. I'm out of here. We're never going to play this room again for whatever reason. And so when major bands that we book get really excited about coming back, and they let us know that, it's great to be back, and then they see the crowd, and it's great to have the crowd. We all feed off of that.
Sure.
We're not doing live entertainment to do the show for ourselves.
Sure.
Yeah.
So thinking back, let's contain it in Bogart's, right? We're talking Bogart's here. Thinking back in your 31 years of Bogart's, is there one or two shows that still give you goosebumps?
There would be more than one or two, but back we remodeled and became Bogart's in 1992.
What was it before?
It was called Shaboom's nightclub. It was a 50s and 60s theme, which was big across the country. But as that theme started to fade across the country, where we moved into other music within that, the plan was to reformulate and recreate a new looking room. And so we came up with the Bogart's, and there was a nightclub called Rupert's Nightclub in St. Louis Park. and they had a 10-piece band called Rupert's Orchestra. Featured an actual 10-piece band with 3 different lead singers. And the people behind that were out of Chicago, but they built one here in the Twin Cities. So that had faded out and already left,
People
gone.
behind the band, people behind the venue.
The people behind the band and the venue were out of Chicago.
Okay.
I believe a company called Lettuce Entertain You, as in the head of lettuce. Yeah, very big. and they, once that whole history faded, ownership at the time said, hey, let's do that. Let's get we did a house band. And we did that 10-piece house band, ran for 10 years.
Wow.
I mean, for 2 years, I'm sorry.
2 years, okay.
2 years, 10-piece, 3 horns and 3 lead singers. And after 2 years, we rotated them in with what we are doing now. We started phasing in other bands like the Johnny Home Band, G.B. Layton, some national acts like Molly Hatchet, Edgar Winter, Eric Burden of Eric Burden and the Animals. And I could go on with that list. It's pretty long. But we created that combination. And then along the way, we did another remodel and made it a dueling piano place, but we're still able to do bands. Now we do it all. We do the dueling pianos, we primarily bands, because that's what we're really known for. But the dueling piano shows have an important market base for us also. People that don't really care to see a band anymore, who have seen dueling pianos and go, hey, that's a great time. Let's go do that. And then our acoustic shows in the side room in our back alley tavern, that's for a lot of people go, well, we don't do the bands really anymore, but we like to come in here, and for 3 hours they get to see a favorite solo, duo, or trio, and they're still supporting our entertainment.
Sure.
They haven't quit. They just like to be home by 9 or 9:30.
Yeah, I feel that.
There you go.
Definitely after COVID, we used to start bands 9 o'clock before COVID.
Yeah.
They get done at midnight.
Yes.
12:30.
Yeah.
Now it's 8, done by 11:30. Seems to be going well. So I was curious because you never answered Will's question. What show gives you? We had a pretty cool one here with our 50th with.
With the Fabulous
with
Armadillos.
Armadillos and GB and Rival, but
If we're talking about, I'll say this, because I've been in the business a long time, the Johnny Home Band. Johnny Home is a Midwest icon. And he started his band in college up at Moorhead State in Moorhead, Minnesota. I went to college at Moorhead State. We were partying to him even though we were underage. Whenever there was a show that wasn't in a bar, he was big then. He's still a big draw now. And I think that's a combination of personal and professional. But there's a prime example of a guy who's been working his audience since like 1968, 69.
Wow.
And-
I had no idea the band had been around that long.
And he has gone through more members. He wears them out. He's still going.
Is that right?
And he wears them out, and he loves it. And there's people that want to play for him in the band, knowing that they probably won't last because he'll run you off the road. He does a couple hundred dates at least, I think, a year.
Wow.
And so that might be my most deep thought revelation, because he was involved early in the business like me. Actually ahead of me, but I say he's one of the few people that's older than me in the business. and he really is. And I'd say another one here in the Twin Cities market base is it's hard to do original music. And G.B. Layton, Brian of G.B. Layton, not only writes great music, he knows what covers to slip in that augment his writing, and he's still going. And I remember I have an early 8.5 by 11 or 8 by 10 black and white picture of his original band. Man, do they look young. And that was one of the first bands we brought into the room after the Casablanca Orchestra was the name of our house band when we became Bogarts. Then we started bringing in Johnny Home, G.B. Layton, back in the day, Austin Healy, and then, like I said, some of these national acts. And, G.B. Layton developed that thing where people like his music. There's a difference between just being a cover band and or doing a tribute to a particular band or covers, and then someone who has the guts to write his material and put it on stage and have people go, hey, we like this, we're buying this. And he is still doing well. We have him coming back in the room. So those might be two, Johnny Home and G.B. Layton. And from the house band perspective, the Casablanca Orchestra, they were a band called Carlotta and the Culottes before they became Casablanca Orchestra. They were one of the bands that we had in Shabooms before we became Bogarts.
Really?
And the ownership at the time said, who would you talk to about changing their name and adding a horn section and becoming a house band? And we went through a list of names. We went through classic bands, White Sidewalls, Rockin' Hollywoods, the High Tops. They were all 50s and 60s oriented bands. And I said, well, there's this band called Carlotta and the Culottes that might be good. They went out and saw them, and they cut the deal that night at a club where they went to see them. And then the leader of the band worked that up, and we came up with the name. But she went out and she put the whole band together. And they recently retired, I think, in 2019. They had a big run. And so those might be my top three. I could live with that.
That's a pretty good list. Yeah, that's a pretty good story.
You probably need just an episode of Karl talking about bands that have come to Bogart.
No, we need more than an episode. I've been thinking about this in my mind as we've been talking. Karl needs his own podcast.
Yeah,
we need to get him in here. We need to
true.
start something. I totally
The Karl
think
Pod.
Yeah, the Karl Pod. And we'll get some people to phone in and give us their questions, and we can just have a great time with it. So I'm totally down with it. So. All right, so I want to wrap this up, and I love to wrap this up by first of all, before I wrap up, is there anything else that you guys wanted to share that maybe we didn't touch on?
We just appreciate. I mean, you had come in and saw a show and had reached out with a text saying, "Hey, I'm doing this podcast. Been doing a lot of interviews with artists, trying to expand into venues." I mean, we just love. That's like Minnesota music scene at its finest, like people just grinding and trying to talk about the industry, and we're happy. I don't feel like we're doing anything like earth shattering at Bogarts. No. We're just trying to take care of the guests and bring in a good band. And I think it's cool when people like you are doing things to get people talking about the industry. Mm-hmm. I think it's a cool thing that you're doing, and hopefully people whether they're musicians or people that like to go out to entertainment, enjoy it.
Well, you guys are doing earth-shattering stuff at Bogarts. Bogarts is setting, Bogarts is a standard. It is a place that a lot of musicians look up to and want to be in and love to go watch shows there. You guys always have great sound, great food, great environment. So
that's me.
That's it. Never mind. I changed my mind about Karl.
My apologies.
It's okay.
Stop.
It's probably a band calling saying, what?
It probably is. It's the hotline.
What Friday, Saturday do you got open?
How come you're not booking us?
There you go. Well, let's hold them up to the mic. Let's see what's going on there.
I quit.
That's G.B. Layton calling right now to tell you about all the great, the great plug you gave him on the Minnesota Music Notes. So.
Well, GB gave Karl a nice plug at we had a 50th anniversary show because Bogarts turned 50 in this fall, so we had an outdoor show, and GB had a lot of great things to say about Karl and Bogart. So it's nice. It's nice to hear that.
Sure.
It's you don't need to hear that, but it's nice to hear it.
Right.
For sure. Well, I'd like to wrap up by saying who is next? Who do you nominate first, Chris, to be next on this podcast?
Oh,
it could be anybody that you.
I was actually going to talk to you about that because not that I have a lot of connections, but I do know a lot of venues and I do know a lot of performers that would probably be cool that would be all in on stuff like this. So
cool.
And no one comes off top.
You
of
don't have any names today, but feel free to shoot them to me. Yeah. And so I.
What episode this
I
is?
do this on every episode.
Yeah.
This is episode 10 today.
Yeah, I mean,
recording 10. So we're releasing number 4 this Thursday.
Okay.
Tony Williams, if you know him.
I don't.
Yeah. All right, Karl, you're up.
Well,
who should be on this next?
I would focus on the bands. The Twin City market base, it's a big market, but yet it's a small town. Everybody knows what everybody else is doing in this business. And like some of the people I mentioned, I'd get Johnny Home in here. He's got a great memory, great stories about on the road and playing the upper Midwest. that would be, I think you'd love to hear from him.
For sure.
I think G.B. Layton, Brian Layton would be another one that would be very good. There's another guy out there that he's pretty much, I think, just doing acoustic shows now, but Tim Mahoney, who was really big around the same time as G.B. Layton.
Name,
Yeah. I think he'd be good. He a lot of writing, not just covers. And, actually, Chase of Chase Innovation. He'd be a good one. He does the Prince tribute.
Yep. I've seen them a couple times.
He was doing the tribute before Prince passed away. I mean, he had the official endorsement from Prince.
Is that right?
So
What's the story? Prince's mom babysat Tommy or
something like that, and then
he's got a personal relationship with the.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah.
He just happened to look like Prince. I don't know if you. I mean, there's a.
I've seen it.
There's a resemblance there,
he
and
definitely pulls it
musically,
off.
it's a great show.
Yeah, it is.
Pulls it off.
It's a great show. So I mean, there are so many musicians and bands in this Twin City area, and you look at
And they're all calling you right now.
They are.
They're like,
My pants is on fire. But it's one of those things where the musicianship in this Twin Cities area is so big, and it goes beyond the days of. Prince really, what's great about him is he stayed. He never left. He got big and he stayed instead of saying, see you later. And, there's a lot of other bands that he either influenced or were before him. And I think you'd have you could fill every podcast every day with some of these people may not like to come out of the woodwork and talk, but I think a lot of them would, especially in an environment like this, long format, where they can really express themselves. It's not just a 30-second bite or a couple of minute bite.
awesome. Well, cool. I mean, I'm going to give myself permission. I might reach out and say, hey, who's next? Who's next? Who's next? Who's calling? Who's calling? Who's calling? Whoever's on the phone is on our podcast next. Well, cool. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate you making the trek out here and being on the podcast. This has been a lot of fun.
I agree. Appreciate the opportunity.